Welcome to the presentation on globalization of credentials as part of the Global Education Conference. My name is Szymon Machajewski, and I work for Grand Valley State University teaching computer information systems. I also volunteer with the University of the People and a few other schools. I am very passionate about education, and I love innovation. I'm a technologist by trade. I used to work as a database administrator, web developer. I've worked with learning management systems for a few years. So when it comes to teaching, I definitely appreciate technology and appreciate how it opens just completely new doors in our business of education. I'd like to welcome everyone from various parts of the world. In a moment, I'll ask you all where you're from. We'll do this on a little map, so you'll be able to post your dot. I'd like to thank Maisie from Israel for moderating. She'll help us to manage the discussion board a little bit and stop me whenever questions come up so that we can weave them into our discussion. Yes, thank you for the emoticon there, Maisie. Can everybody give me hands? Can everybody raise their hand? Can you see under the there's a little icon for raising the hand? Perfect. So I can see that everyone is alive. Thank you for that. And whenever you run into a major difficulty, please feel free to raise your hand. It's going to help Maisie and me to get in touch with you and perhaps address that. I'd like to also thank our sponsors. Education is a difficult business where a lot of money needs to be spent, but often those who are learning are unable to pay themselves. So thank you for the sponsors doing this good work. Now let's move to the map. And I gave you the whiteboard privilege, and if you could, please click on the map, and you should use the little star, show us where you're from. Okay, so I'm actually from West Michigan here, where we had quite a few windy storms recently. All right, we see some smiley faces from Middle East. Looks like Maisie might be the one. So with people being spread out geographically like this, we have opportunities for really bridging cultures and also tapping into ideas of many people. By now, it's been about 20 years since technology was hit with this convergence. Open source technologies were developed, like Linux, and programmers from all over the world were able to collaborate and create something that really was thought impossible. Only large corporations were able to create technologies like that. So we're hoping that now education can benefit from this kind of a global cooperation effort. And so this conference is just one of those opportunities. So welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and take a look at a short list of our objectives for this presentation. We are going to list some challenges that we have in our industry with credentials. And I welcome some of your expressions on the subject. We're going to talk about performance-driven assessment. Then we'll identify open badges. We'll give you some examples of those. We're going to talk about how the process of earning badges works and what is the currently open platform for this. And finally, we'll explain really the pedagogy as well as andragogy of open badges. Now, just looking at those objectives, could you use the button next to the raised hand, which is the poll button, and go ahead and select from, well, it should be from A to E. Let me just change this quickly. Polling type A to E. Go ahead and select from A to E the objective that perhaps you are anticipating or perhaps you're looking forward to discussing. All right, very well. So we have a couple of votes for C to perhaps learn more about open badges. We have one vote for D to demonstrate how they work, and Allison is voting here for talking about the challenges. Okay, excellent. So thank you for that. And this is, of course, an example of peer instruction, which is just wonderful in the classroom. If you were able to attend some of the presentations on peer instruction, or perhaps read up on it, it changes dynamic in the classroom when students can get involved and give you feedback and answer your questions, have group discussions. Okay, so these are our objectives. Let's go ahead and get started. There are definitely many challenges across the globe with many different important issues. But in education, we have certainly issues with credentialing. Credentials are required. We all agree. Job market needs to know what it is that we have learned, what courses we've taken. The problem that we sometimes have is, how do we demonstrate that? In the United States, there is a process of requesting transfer or transcripts from universities or colleges, and then presenting those to employers so that the actual grades and the actual classes that make up a credential are evident to the employer. This is often shortened just to a single name of a degree. There are difficulties, though, with comparing degrees. Sometimes degrees which have been earned years ago really do not represent the necessary skills that a job market may call for. Some of the other challenges that we have is the cost of education, especially higher education, seems to be unsustainable. And it's interesting that in many countries, including the United States, we certainly have laws. There are laws about discrimination. An employer cannot discriminate against a race or country of origin or gender, but it is perfectly legal to discriminate against academic achievement. In fact, two candidates for a position who have equal skills, or maybe even experience for the position, one may be disqualified and may not even apply because of this academic achievement requirement. And I would call it discrimination because oftentimes this is a question of rich versus poor. If the family has the resources to send their kids to school, they do so at an early age, and that happens, and then the credential stays with the affluent person for the rest of their career. Now, a question of the value of this credential would come up. How much really can a young person take in terms of managing people, in terms of emotional intelligence? Those are very important issues as we look at the skills, and especially the soft skills, which are present in the job market. So that's just one example. Here's another where we have candidates who are looking for work who are overqualified. I read a study that in Spain, about 7% of long-term unemployed are actually removing university credentials from their resumes. And the reason why they're doing that is because they feel overqualified, and they feel that opportunities for employment are limited because of these credentials. So the exact opposite effect than what they were planning for when they were taking some of the courses and paying for the degrees. Here's another idea. In art and design industries, specifically I'm thinking about web design at the moment because I'm familiar with this industry. People who have higher education credentials like bachelor's degrees and master's degrees are actually looked down upon because what the industry is looking for are people who are creative, people who are going to pursue the newest technologies, people who have an open mind. And what the industry found was that people who go through courses, people who have the diligence to complete assignments and move through the path, the program of study, often do not have the drive for design, the drive for creativity, basically do not work within the industry. So there are some negative connotations to people who are credentialed. Also, if we look at local educational markets, we already struggle with comparing courses from one institution to another. A degree at one university is not equal to a degree at another university, especially today when we have such tremendous industry and business behind education. We have private universities which are overselling often the credential. Without mentioning any names, here in the United States, we had a number of legal cases where students are suing the schools, and these schools are accredited. They're suing the schools because the schools offered or even promised that they will be able to multiply their salaries and then they will get jobs, and in fact, they are not getting jobs. And the cases there are about the exact words that the schools are using. If the schools are saying, we are going to teach you, we are going to, or you are going to attain employment after coming to our school, they have to change that. Today, you will see in the advertisements that these schools, after the legal cases are completed, they will say, we will expose you to opportunities for learning. So we see just changing environments where credentialing and the value of these credentials is under question and oftentimes legal question. We, of course, have accreditation in different countries. It works differently. Here in the United States, we have national accreditation, which basically manages whether a school can take in federal money, federal help for students, whereas at local levels, there are a few locally accrediting bodies, committees, and so then a school is locally accredited, which is often valued much higher than the national accreditation. And then we have accreditations based on industries. So a local organization might be accrediting certain department, and then this is viewed as a special credential. But across that, the standards are difficult to evaluate at the employment level. So what does it really mean to have this degree with this body accrediting it? Of course, we have online schools, so now we are crossing the state borders, crossing the borders between the locally accrediting bodies, and of course we can earn degrees from other countries. So how do we evaluate those? The paths are often not clear. So the employment market does not recognize experience at times or aptitude the same way it recognizes formal credentials, and here's why. When a job is advertised, a required degree might be posted, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. Good examples here are of people who are coming perhaps from the military, and these people come with great experience, hands-on experience with the very jobs they're applying for. But because of the lack of the credentials, they are unable even to apply for the jobs. So the employment market is not recognizing the experience, perhaps because they are lacking certain evidence of this experience. And so this is where the subject of our presentation here is going to be credentials, which could be called mini credentials, credentials that prove a set of skills. And we're hoping to address with these credentials not only the difficulties within an employment market, but also the fact that we can now deploy these credentials globally through the technology of networking, through the technology of the internet. Yet, let me switch to another challenge of credentials. And I will not show this video, but I encourage you to look at it on your own. A recent example of students using what's called a keyword catching system, which plugs in right behind your computer, and every keystroke is then captured wirelessly into a storage device. So at University of Miami University, which is actually located in Ohio, but at this university, the students were able to catch the password of the professor, and then for about 2 years kept changing grades, of course increasing or changing grades for better grades for themselves and other students. So this is yet another challenge that we have with technology today, where even accredited universities which are well established, may be providing credentials and degrees which really do not match with the learning that's taking place in the classroom. Now, with the plethora of online universities, some of these security issues and activity of organized hackers further questions the credentialing. So what we're looking for in credentialing is certainly evidence of the learning that took place. We are looking for granularity. So we don't want to just know that you have a master's degree in computer science. We would like to know more detail so that we can really take a look at the projects that you completed. Do they really apply to the position that's being advertised, or do these skills apply to markets in other countries where just the sound of the credential is unknown yet? So what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about assessments and credentialing, which is open, performance-driven, really. And the reason why we're talking about it is because there's a whole set of challenges associated with who is allowed to participate in education, even in terms of curriculums, who and how quickly can respond to changes of the industry versus what the curriculum shows. We talked about a number of challenges across bodies which issue credentials, whether these are security issues or issues of profit-driven activity and basically taking students as quickly through the program as possible and really promising students value that isn't there. So a performance-driven credential would allow us to learn in many different ways and then prove that we have specific knowledge. And unlike in most cases of courses, there is a process of remembering and then taking a test, and very much like birds that feed their young, it's the regurgitating of the knowledge back on the course and then quickly forgetting afterwards. The performance-driven style is a higher level learning element where you have to apply your knowledge, and that's what badges also will provide. We want to be able to have evidence of how the credential was given. Also, we want to be granular. So we want to go beyond just a grade in a class. We want to go to the projects that were completed, the skills that were gained. And we would like this to be globally accessible so that we have peer review we have all those benefits that open source has enjoyed in the last few years. We know that in open source systems like Linux and even Firefox, when software problems occur, like security problems, many eyes of people who are using the system make these problems shallow. So people can respond quicker to security issues, they can address them at a deeper level, and then move on with the work. So as a case study, and really an example of how credentialing can be dealt with, let's take the IT industry. Especially in the 80s and the 90s, we had very quick development of new skills and new parts of the IT industry. And very quickly, the same challenges were realized on this local level at this industry. We had people who had credentials but were unable to fill the jobs that they were asked to do. It could be because of the new languages that were being created, new requirements for creative thinking. In the IT industry at the time, we also had the issue of not having enough people who were credentialed. So at the time, again looking at 80s and 90s, we had fewer people with bachelor degrees and master degrees in computer science, but great need for people to work in this area. So the way this industry reacted was by creating IT certifications. And these certifications were issued by the companies that were involved in the industry. So Oracle had their own certification, perhaps Red Hat had their own certification, Microsoft had a whole lot of certifications. And these certifications were being offered at a granular level. These certifications were being offered oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes through performance-driven tests. I remember taking a Red Hat certification to be a Red Hat certified engineer, and basically I had a computer in front of me which was not booting, was not working. It was my job to go ahead and fix it, make it work, and the certification was based on completion of a number of objectives to make this computer do what it needs to do. So these certifications were aimed at people who were entering the industry, people who were interesting in the subject matter, people who perhaps, for multiple reasons, did not have traditional credentials to go ahead and enter the industry. But it was a way to regulate who is progressing within the industry and how the old credentials could be refreshed and how learning that is currently taking place could have evidence. So this is just an example of how information technology as an industry responded to a similar need that we have today across a number of other industries because of the changing environment and globalization involved. So I want to talk for a moment about Bloom's taxonomy, and the reason why we need to talk about it is because to understand truly how learning takes place and how can we provide evidence of that learning, we need to take advantage of what Dr. Bloom in the 50s and then later on his research, what it provided and how we can take advantage of it. Now through smiley faces here, which you can find on the left side here under the word moderator here. Go ahead and give me a smiley face if you have heard about Bloom's taxonomy before. Okay, Maisie heard about Bloom's taxonomy, excellent. Okay, great, we have quite a few who are very familiar with it, excellent. Okay, good, so I won't go into too much detail on it. What I will explain is that Bloom's taxonomy basically gives us insight on the depth of learning that takes place. So remembering, being at the very bottom where someone can just memorize certain terms and definitions for a test, take the test, and then immediately forget them. unfortunately, this is how many of our courses are being passed with an A grade today, and how many degrees are possibly issued as well. So remembering allows us to enter the learning process. The higher levels would include things like understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And these levels have certain connotations of knowing what it is that you remember, of being able to then use it in practice, being able to put together new thoughts that that knowledge and the application of that knowledge provides opportunity for. So when we talk about badges, what we are trying to do is take knowledge and allow multiple people to create facilities for verifying this knowledge. Now, later on, I'll show you how to earn a badge, which does not require answering a multiple choice question, but the badge does require to going through actual activities where everything is online and anybody can try to go through those activities and see how difficult it might be. So we're hoping to take the assessment from the knowledge and remembering level at least to the application level, and be able to create systems which can be then shared across classrooms or online courses because they are available online. And as we go forward, we hope that the global collaboration may allow us to take this learning even to a higher level, where we can take specific skills and really take them to the evaluation level, where we can have the credential of really deep learning. So let me show you this particular slide, which it's more on the lighter side, but it basically shows us how the various social media sites may fit into the Bloom's taxonomy. And as you look through these, which I'm sure you're familiar with many of them, what you might notice is that people who are online, learners who are connected, do this by nature. Our natives on the internet are going to recognize websites that allow them to just read about something, and then websites that make the learning deeper. I think really the change that is occurring is through YouTube, where you can listen to a person on the other side and have this extremely fast mode of communication by seeing someone's face, by being able to communicate through body language, very much like an instructor in the classroom. But of course, have that be done across many subjects very quickly. And all we need from here then is a way to provide evidence that the learning actually took place. And that's, we hope that that open badges might allow for this very opportunity. Now, in terms of the connectivity across our learners, I want to share with you a comment that one of my students made. In teaching through University of the People, I have the opportunity to teach Martin in a class. He's from Agbo, Nigeria. And what I didn't realize was that the students in some areas basically are connected only some of the time. So he actually turns on an email response that says, "I'm currently offline, but will respond immediately when I go back online." So what we sometimes take for granted is that my phone or my computer gets connected all the time, whereas for some students, this connection is really a privilege, something that happens only in the green areas of their environment. With that in mind, the credentialing systems and the access to education also has to be more flexible. Because even taking an online class, and we can talk about MOOCs and things like that, perhaps from large schools. Yes, Maisie, go ahead.
I think Mike wants to ask a question. Mike, I can give you microphone privileges if you have a headset. His hand is raised.
I think Mike's hand was raised for a while. Perhaps what we can do is, if you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat, and we'll capture it right from there. Right. I think that Mike got his hand up when we were doing the initial button test. So let's just move on. But please feel free to ask questions in the chat area, and we'll address them. What I was talking about was that students across the world can take online classes or even free courses from free universities like University of the People or from MIT through MOOCs. But their ability to consume this knowledge, even when the course is online, it's not the same as students who are in developed countries where the internet is freely available. So what we are hoping with badges is that we will allow the learning to take place in many different ways. Now, this learning may take place through friends. It can take place through magazines. It can take place online or offline. But we will provide a credentialing system, a way to assess that learning, prove it, and then have a storage, a way to store your skills in one place, and then share these skills through either social media websites or through resumes, or however the employer might be willing to take a look at them. Okay, so let's move forward and let's take a closer look at what a badge actually is. So a badge is going to be an electronic evidence of an accomplishment. Just like an IT certification, today very often we have certifications which are actually verified by an online process. So just because I say I'm a Red Hat certified engineer doesn't mean that I can't use Photoshop to put together this particular printout. I get a number, and you can paste this number on the Red Hat's website, and they will verify that this certificate belongs to someone. So that's the nature of the badge. It is issued. It can have expiration date, and it provides certain references to how the badge was earned, what was the evidence, who issued the badge. It is all very open. So people who are trying to explore an industry can do this in small pieces by pursuing and by exploring some of those learning opportunities that the badges would then advertise. So badges can be used to set goals, to motivate behaviors, represent achievements, and communicate success. If you think back at the Bloom's taxonomy, I'm going to bring it back momentarily here. This is the traditional view. There is an entire component missing from the bottom, which is engagement. To engage a student means to catch his interest in a subject and to keep his mind around the subject. We know that during a lecture, 10 minutes is basically how long students can keep focus, which is why YouTube for a while only allowed a short video. They did that for technical reasons, but we quickly learned that, yes, very short videos are more effective than very long videos. So this engagement, keeping someone's attention, capturing it, really capturing someone's mind, that's what badges allow us to do. Badges help us to motivate by showing a little path of learning. If we think back at badges, oftentimes you might associate them with scouting. And Robert Baden-Powell, who before the First World War developed scouting, really was dealing with similar issues that we have today. He was dealing with young people who needed to be motivated, who needed to have goals, and he, for example, opted to have them wear uniforms in order to put aside or in the background their cultural as well as their financial differences. So those kids who were dressed well acted differently with the kids who were dressed very poorly. And so uniforms allow that to be put in the background. And then he used badges to represent skills, again, to motivate, to keep the minds engaged, to allow many credentials which help the kids to move forward. And that's what we are hoping that can happen in the classrooms. In addition to whatever the learning path is for a degree, the small credentials can keep students engaged. So badges are used to support learning because it happens in many different ways. And I think today, with the openness of the internet, we know that it does happen in many ways. Perhaps your students are using Khan Academy to learn more about the subjects that you're teaching. And that's great if it can be done at home but not at school. Learning will take place in many different ways. So I have a link to a YouTube video, and I encourage you to take a look at it. I'm not going to play it, but in this video we have representatives of the manufacturing industry. We have, I think there's a director there of Research Institute from University of California. We have Director of Education from MacArthur Foundation. Really express themselves that open badges provide a way to motivate, to show evidence of learning, and really to take our interaction in the classroom to a new level and provide evidence that's helpful with employers. So I encourage you to take a look at this particular video. But let's look at really how the pedagogy and andragogy of badges works. And pedagogy and andragogy basically is the same process, but they vary in the age of the audience. Pedagogy refers to children, so teaching children and going back to the time of the Greeks and Romans, who would have tutors, and tutors are even today proven to be the best way of one-on-one education. In the 80s, Dr. Bloom again, through research, proved that one-on-one with a tutor is the best way to accelerate learning. So pedagogy and then andragogy has to do with older learners who perhaps through life experiences or even employment experiences are able to relate differently. Yes, I'll post the link in the chat right away. So older learners are a pleasure to have in the classroom because they bring in a lot of experience, but they also have different requirements. They want to know why they are learning certain skill. They want to know why they're doing it. That is just the nature of how their mind works, as opposed to kids who oftentimes will learn just because we ask them to learn something. So the engagement of learners is different through badges, and badges allow us to appeal to both groups. Through badges, we can use game theory to engage the younger generations, or not even generations, but just younger in age, who like competition, who want to see the next level. I have a 5-year-old who continuously talks about the games he plays on the iPad and the new levels that he gets to. Well, that's the kind of engagement, excitement that we can create in the classroom through open badges. But for older learners, when the badge represents an advantage in employment or through boosting the resume, so this is how we can now appeal to all the learners and use andragogy along with that. Interest-based learning. This is where open badges allow us to advertise different skills, and we can put a seed towards maybe computer science or maybe medicine in people, and they can then explore this area, catch an interest in it, and really be hooked that way for learning of that subject. Mini credentials can be useful for retention. I've taught at a community college, which is a 2-year college with open entry and otherwise appealing to a diverse population of students. And retention was a huge deal. How do you keep students in the seat? How do you keep them in the classroom? So these mini credentials can address some of these retention issues. And of course, the skills and the job-oriented credentials, manufacturing can produce their own badges with the skills that they are looking for, and then have students gain those badges. I was in a meeting with a local software development company, and we were discussing how can we have students at our college work for you. You know, how can you pick and choose the students that you're looking for? Because they were very interested in catching talent early, even if it meant just recognizing ability to program and then employing the person and then basically grooming them towards their company. And the solution was that they wanted to set a requirement for a program and have students post code as a solution to this requirement on GitHub, which happens to be a collection repository of code in the open source community. So right there, we had the connection of the skill and job offerings based on performance. And these employers were not interested in traditional credentials because what they were looking for was the ability to think creatively, to think differently about code so that it fits in with their company and their culture. So it was just an eye-opener as far as the fit the badges might provide. So at this point, let me show you a few examples of badges, and these examples come from Michigan State University, one of the top research universities in the United States, and my neighbors here in Michigan. We have badges here which are quite advanced. These badges would be perhaps used at a higher level institution. But the opportunity here is for universities to create badges maybe at a course level for specific projects that students complete, or maybe awarding badges to special achievements that students within a certain term accomplish. But then we can also take these badges and use them across universities, of course, if they choose to do that. And of course, we know that within the academia, we have just a culture and history of sharing. So once the technology exists to do that, you know, today we have MOOCs where we share content, and then we have repositories towards that. So an example here of a badge that I'd like to share with you would be called the Navigator. And what I will do is I will paste in a link into the discussion board. And what I'd like you to do is go ahead and open it and just mute your YouTube video itself. And what I will do is I will play the sound through my speakers, so that way we'll all know when this particular video ends, and we'll be able to jump back together.
Hi, in this video I'll show you how to earn your first
Mozilla Open Badge. Start by going to the Google search engine and look for Get Your Navigator Badge here. Press enter, and the very top result, the one which takes us to GitHub here, is going to be the URL to our Navigator badge. Here we have 5 challenges, which are the skills being tested for this particular badge. So let's start. First of all, we ask, do you have what it takes to serve the web like the pros? Let's find out. First, change your address bar so its URL ends with #I can hack. We'll go ahead and do that. After the pound, I type in I can hack. Press enter. You can see that the first task disappeared, and I can move on with the next 4 challenges. Next, I'm asked to select the text. I do that, and my challenge is accepted. Now I'm asked, then copy and paste this text here. So we right-click copy, right-click paste, and this challenge is also completed. Now select everything in the text field below, copy it, and paste it in the empty field after it. So I click on the field, press Ctrl-A to select it all, copy, right-click and paste, and this takes care of my next challenge. Finally, copy the URL of the picture on the right hand and paste it here. Now this can be done in a number of ways. We can go into the source of the page, get the URL, or we can just right-click. Depending on the browser that you have, you might have this option of saying copy image location, and now you can paste this image location, and now I have my first badge. All I need to do is type in my email address, press send to backpack. If this is your very first badge, you don't have the backpack set up, you'll be taken through that. If you already have badges in the backpack, this badge will be added to it. Thank you very much.